try to do this. We're going to try to do this on YouTube and Instagram because we're going to use all of the technology today. Okay. So, probably should have put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but, all right, let's talk about it, right? So everyone's talking about these tweets again, which feels like the last several years we've been stuck on what's happening in the Twitter sphere. So as you guys are joining in, say what's up in the chat. Let me know, especially you guys on YouTube, that you guys can hear me. Let me know where you're joining from. But I definitely felt the need to take the time to have this conversation around redlining by a different name, right? So what I want to do is I want to go through a little bit. I want to make sure we are basing this conversation on facts, right? Facts only. Hey, what's up, Dawn? What's going on? Peace Queen, what's popping? Hey, Carol, Hernover, how are you? So it's important that we're having these conversations around what's going on and having them in an informed way. So we're talking through facts and not emotions. So like everyone else, when I saw Trump's tweet, my first reaction was, like no, he didn't. But in reality, we really have to dive into what's happening, what the impacts are, and what people need to know. Hey, Nakia. So first and foremost, what's up, y'all? So I'm on both Instagram and YouTube. So we have to start the conversation about redlining, right? Redlining. So Baltimore has a deep and robust relationship with redlining, and how really this city has been impacted for decades, honestly, around redlining. So let's first and foremost, right? What is redlining? So redlining is really, everyone always talks about it, how people drew these red lines around specific neighborhoods, particularly neighborhoods that were primarily Black and brown, and basically would not lend there. So kind of a little bit more flavor to that. It's literally it was called the Homeowners Loan Corporation. And what they did was they graded different neighborhoods on this color coding system. So green was the best neighborhood, blue meant it was still desirable, yellow was like it's definitely declining, and red was hazardous, right? Red lines. It was a color coding system on how they were grading these neighborhoods, right? So as they did that, particularly like Black, Jewish, all these folks those neighborhoods were the ones that were labeled as being hazardous. So this was around like the 1930s. So in Baltimore, there were a lot of times people talk about the white L and the black butterfly, right? So a lot of those neighborhoods in that black butterfly would have those red lines around it. So impacts, right? So if you can't get a loan to buy properties in specific neighborhoods or areas, you can only have housing transactions, when you can physically pay cash for the property, right? So that automatically depresses home values. So you think about long-term impacts, some of the same neighborhoods that were targeted primarily for redlining now have low property values, because a lot of times you set that precedence. You're not able to appreciate at the same levels as your neighboring areas and neighborhoods because people physically couldn't get access to loans, right? So we have this grading system. We have these Black neighborhoods that had these red lines around them. That was around the 1930s, and that was started around the Homeowners Loan Corporation. Redlining being Baltimore being one of the birthplaces of redlining specifically. We literally have areas, I don't know, those of you who are familiar with or from Baltimore, if you know Roland Park, right? The areas is the hoity-toity bourgeoisie of Baltimore and Roland Park. Literally the bylaws of that neighborhood include not allowing Black people to live there, right? Jewish as well, I believe. And so you have like this really deep history in Baltimore around redlining. But so we have redlining in the 1930s. 1968. Does anyone know what happened in 1968? Where y'all in the comments? Y'all paying attention? Y'all know your history? What happened in 1968 in regards to housing in around the country? All right, the Fair Housing Act, right? The Fair Housing Act in 1968, which banned racial discrimination in housing. And so really what the Fair Housing Act did was two things. One, end housing discrimination, right? And so really focusing on, all right, Jordan, I see you, Jordan. Being able to have these diverse neighborhoods, you weren't able to discriminate based on, race, based on religion, things of that nature. And then there's a second goal around fair access and equal opportunity. So that fair access and equal opportunity point, really it was known as the affirmatively furthering fair housing. All right, affirmatively furthering fair housing. Was y'all ready for this whole history lesson? Like, we teaching today, because I want to be clear about the conversation that we're having. All right, so those two things the Fair Housing Act did. One, you had diverse neighborhoods. You cannot discriminate based on race, religion, things of that nature. And two, you had to have fair access and equal opportunity, right? Cool. We got that. 1968, right? Moving right along. So then, kind of fast forward into where we are. You have kind of this redlining by a different, bringing me back to law school. Boom, Carlson, we're not playing with none of these people. You know how we do. Because when I'm on a rant, when I'm ready to go in, I want to go in on facts. I don't want to go in on emotion. Let's talk facts. We do things on emotion all day long, right? Let's go through the books. Y'all know I just talked from the top of my head. If I got papers, we not playing. We're not playing. So, all right. So we got redlining by a different name, right? So when you have these things, right, you're not allowed to discriminate, but you can do things like, particularly those who are investing in Baltimore, you have lenders that won't lend under, $100,000, right? Won't lend under $75,000. Now, neighborhoods historically that have that level, have lower property values, really it becomes a result of access to funding, right? You need a lot of times for properties to be able to appreciate at the same level as other neighborhoods. Again, you need access to capital and funding. So when you have this history, this 40, 50 years of not having access to loans, and then couple that with all these other stuff that happens in the neighborhood, right? Employment, you have people losing homes because of, how things are structured with taxes and all of these, there's lots of stuff going on, right? So fast forward today, you have these issues with access to capital from lenders when it comes to, of course I don't have, let me see. I need a charger for my phone, 1 second. You have these issues with access to loans, and so you're keeping these property values low, and you also can't have, you also don't have, lenders now who are willing to lend in those same places today. So when you think about redlining of a different name and in a different time, it's exactly that, right? These same neighborhoods you can't get access to financing for. Ask an investor who can't get a loan for a property because it's $60,000, and a lot of the lenders want to have $100,000, right? So clearly we have redlining by a different name that happens all the time, right? All right. So what? All right, we back. Cool. All right. So now let's get to. So we got some history, right? We know where we coming from, right? We're kind of getting into today. So let's talk about Trump's tweets, right? So Trump tweeted that he was going to get rid of a policy by the Obama administration that and really talked about protecting the idea of suburban living and not needing to be burdened by low income housing. And so you can keep your property values up or whatever the hell he said. Y'all know what he said, right? So let's talk about what he's actually talking about, because a lot of times he tweets, there's reaction and there's not research, right? There's not, we get emotional about what he's saying, but we're not being informed about what he's really talking about and what the true impacts are, right? So what he was talking about in that tweet about getting rid of was this affirmatively furthering fair housing regulation, right? So let's kind of take it back, right? So in 1968, there was those two goals, right? The one was ending housing discrimination so that you had diverse neighborhoods, and the second was fair access and equal opportunities. Well, that was also known as this Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act, right? So the AFFH. So that was part of something that was created in 1968. So the two goals of that is one, that the HUD can't discriminate, right? And neither can anyone who uses its funds. So I don't know if y'all know, but people get a coin off of HUD when they're doing development. So when you think about transitioning from investing, you're doing kind of individual houses, you're kind of going on this one house at a time. When you're doing development, a lot of that is really based off of the ability to do that is based off of getting access to capital from several different places. It's called a capital stack. And so you're able to stack sources of funds from a lot of different spaces. Talk about OPM, right? They're able to use other people's money in a lot of spaces. And HUD has a really big part in that, right? If y'all are following on Instagram, give me some hearts or something. Let me know like y'all are following what I'm doing. Y'all too. I need some. Let me know y'all are following, because I know we're getting into the nitty gritty, right? And usually I'm fun. We playing around. No, we're not playing today because we got work to do. So one, the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act was that the HUD can't discriminate, one, and two, anyone who gets HUD money cannot discriminate, right? And the second is that that the AFFH is able to give people more opportunities and more choices, okay? So the problem that the Obama administration found, because again, they didn't create this, the problem that they found was that nobody was holding people accountable. There were no metrics for success for the HUD to be able to make sure that the funds that the HUD is providing were being used in a way that they were supposed to, right? And that there wasn't discrimination practices, and that there was equal opportunity, and that people were getting, diversity of choices, right? All right, I see y'all. Thank y'all. I'm just making sure y'all follow me. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down. We getting somewhere, right? So the Obama administration said no one's holding people accountable to how this money is being used. So we're giving this money out in all these different spaces for people to do all these different things, but we can't track the success of those funds based on the point of it all, which is equal access and non-discrimination, right? Cool. So I'm following you very closely. Look, if I got notes, y'all better have notes too. We going through it on a Saturday. So in 2015, Obama created rules, these regulations, and so really created these results-oriented measures of success so that, these measures of success so that we could now track how this money is being used, what's the effectiveness. They literally created, there's something called the Assessment of Fair Housing tool. So, they were able to there's like this list of criteria, you would answer certain questions, provide metrics. There's actually even a mapping tool where you can go in, search your neighborhood, your jurisdiction, and be able to confirm, locally how things are going, right? What are the local needs? What are the patterns that you should know or be aware of based on the region or local jurisdiction? So the Obama administration created all of that so that, really along the lines of transparency and holding people accountable, right? So we have the Assessment of Fair Housing tool, and then this data mapping and analysis, literally map, like you put in where you're looking for and you can find, okay, how is this area and neighborhood doing around access and opportunity, right? So 2018, right? We're under a new administration, and there's kind of a lot of things happening as a result of that. But around with that assessment tool, you have really 5 years to be able to prove that you were doing what you were supposed to be doing with the money, right? So they did that in 2015. So that means that the first group of people who are being held accountable to that rule had to prove that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing by October 31st, 2020. Okay, October 31st, 2020. So in January of 2018, y'all see I did my research, right? You see we not playing. Are we clear on that? Everyone, y'all, all right. In January of 2018, the HUD under the Trump administration suspended the rule. Basically, there was like, let's go ahead and look at this again. Like, we're not really sure if this is what we want to do. So let's pump the brakes on this, right? So they said, all right, nobody needs to, we're going to suspend the rule. And so nobody needs to submit their numbers, okay? So that's in January 5th, 2018. So flash forward to, what are we in? August of 2020. Trump has his tweets and says, now, okay, y'all ain't got, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. So he decided to forego those 2015 regulations altogether, period, right? They were like, it's too much work. There's too many questions. Like, we shouldn't have to go through all of this. So before y'all have to hit this deadline of October 31st, 2020, we're just going to throw the whole thing away, right? So let's be clear. He didn't say that we don't have he didn't say we don't have the Fair Housing Act, right? He didn't say we're getting rid of the AFFH, the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing like policy, that regulation, that whole part. What he did say they were getting rid of is the rules and regulations that help to really measure the success of how the funds are being used. And so rather than needing to complete that assessment tool within that 5-year period, it's kind of going back to the original, how it was originally set up, where it's kind of based on like Scout's honor, like good faith. You have to self-certify that you were following the rules and that you did everything that, you weren't discriminating based off of X, Y, and Z, and you use the money the way you're supposed to be, right? So you have now kind of repealing those regulations and the rules around completing that assessment tool. You have kind of like, back to the good faith and saying, you're going to, I used the money the way I was supposed to do. Let me go ahead and ride off into the sunset. And so what Trump is saying, or what the announcement, because, when they make changes like this, there are like announcements that they make, and there's like this 57-page document. And basically what he was saying was that with this tool, it takes too much work. Ain't nobody got time for that. And so instead of having people spend time to complete this form, let them do what they do, and let's focus more so on opportunity zones, right? And so what are opportunity zones? So the Opportunity Zone program was created really to incentivize people to realize their capital gains, whether in the stock market or in real estate or otherwise, and take those funds and invest them into what's called opportunity zone areas, qualified opportunity zone areas, so that they were developing in those properties, in those neighborhoods, for at least a 10-year period, for the opportunity to really decrease how much you have to pay in taxes, right? So if you invest in these areas for 10 years using funds that you would have had to pay capital gains tax on, you take those funds and invest and instead invest into these qualified opportunity zone neighborhoods, you can decrease how much you have to pay Uncle Sam at the end of the day, with a whole bunch of, there's like a whole bunch of stuff in there. But at the end of the day, you got money, you made money, right? You have all these capital gains, invest in the hood, and we won't make you pay as much taxes on them, right? That's kind of like the nitty gritty, right? And so what Trump is saying, okay, if we're not worried about what people are doing over here, we can help incentivize them to invest in these opportunity zone areas, invest in these neighborhoods, so that so that these communities are being revitalized, where low income housing people live, right? Instead of having these incentives for folks to use those folks, hold people accountable to using money using this money wherever in order to create affordable housing, being held accountable to that. Let's kind of redirect them to investing in areas where these low income people are already and revitalize those spaces, right? Let's focus on the Opportunity Zone program rather than holding people accountable to how they're using the HUD funds specifically beyond, just Scouts Honor. So I was kind of thinking on this, right? So here's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, so I'm cool on that, the Opportunity Zone stuff, right? I get what that is. We've been talking about Opportunity Zones for years. But if we're telling people to invest in Opportunity Zone areas, but we're not going to hold them accountable to metrics on how they're creating affordable housing in general, and therefore also including these areas, what happens? You know what I'm saying? If I can get a coin from the HUD and know that all I have to do is kind of self-certify that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and you guys are incentivizing me to invest in Opportunity Zones, which is the hood anyway, right? The areas that are kind of known as being low income or technically literally through data being low income housing, but I don't have to show that I'm providing space for them, numbers wise. Nobody's going to be for real checking for me. Gentrification at its finest, period, Renee. Exactly. So this kind of brings me, and this is why I spent the time to go through the facts. And so I'm hoping that y'all followed and went through that with me, like that whole history, because there's a reason, right? Setup. It's an alley-oop because I'm about to throw it in there, right? Here's where we are. We're in a space and time where there's a lot of things happening. And what we've been talking about for years is multifold, right? Investing in the neighborhoods that we've grown up in, our aunties, our uncles, our grandparents live in, right? See the opportunity in our hood first, right? 2, we need to make sure, exactly, different name. And that's what I'm saying. It's redlining by a different name. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of impact to real estate, and there's policy changes. And we have to, I know a lot of times people are vote this and, does my vote count and all that kind of stuff. Does it matter? All these things. You have to know, if you want to play in this game at this level, you have to do this level of research, right? Spending the time to get emotional about something without being intentional on how you're able to move and react, how you really know what's going on. What Trump did really in his tweet, but also in the regulation, is for me confirmation that what we're doing, how we're doing it, and where we're doing it at is so critically important. Because honestly, we have got to be committed to investing in our own neighborhoods for a lot of different reasons. One is, at the end of the day, so there's 46 opportunity zones in Baltimore out of 140 in the entire state, right? 46 or 42. We know already that things are coming. We know already that the train is moving, right? The train is already toot, like the Jones here, okay, in Baltimore, and in a lot of other areas too, a lot of other cities too. But I'm going to speak on Baltimore because that's where my heart is. That's where #NextGenTakeover, all the next geners watching this, make sure you throw it in there. That's why we're doing what we're doing there, why we do what we do in our own properties, our own development deals, all those types of things. Because at the end of the day, the train is already here and moving. And there's things like this that blatantly help to support what we've been saying. And what we've been saying is that we have got to position ourselves to have ownership in these neighborhoods in a really powerful way, to have thoughtful investments and not only add value in the communities in which we invest, not only, taking vacant houses and making them homes, not only that, but also building wealth within ourselves so we continue to make more impact, right? You can't pour from an empty glass. That's what Chloe says all the time. You can't pour from an empty glass. And so you have to be able to do multiple things at once, right? I know your mama, your grandmama, your auntie done told you, you got to work harder, faster, smarter. You have to do it all to be able to get the same level of results sometimes. And so for us, we can't just buy houses, right? I mean, you can, but we not. Just buy houses. It's about having, Chloe talks about having a double bottom line. So what does that mean? That means that we're looking at that line that says our profitability. Let's be clear, right? We're not a nonprofit yet, right? We don't have a nonprofit yet, but we're looking at that bottom line because we have to make sure that we are able to create what we need. But there's a second bottom line that talks about our impact in the community, our impact in developing the community, developing people, how we interact with our tenants, how we're able to structure our deals to be able to add value to home ownership, how we're able to do all of these things is important. One. And two, for us, leveraging things like Next Gen, right, where we can level that playing field to information and essentially exponentially grow our impact to individual family lines when we talk about gentrification, but also impact to Baltimore, because we're able to make sure that our folks, our Next Gen, they know how to move in Baltimore and essentially, and y'all co-sign if you feel me, but Next Gen, really, people are taking its trampoline into Baltimore real estate with a parachute. Say I'm lying, right? And so what's so interesting about this whole, keep the suburbs and redirecting people into really incentivizing further gentrification is that we are exactly where we need to be at the time we need to be there. Because right now it's so critically important. We have a free class that we've been doing called Why Baltimore, Why Now, where we're going through like the facts of what's happening in Baltimore and why people need to be in the game and what's happening here, how we can make sure that we're not letting the same things that have happened to these other cities, whether it's DC, parts of Philly, Brooklyn, Harlem, Oakland, like we can sit here and name these places all day long because we have the t-shirt. We've been there, done that, seen it. Well, what's different now is that we have like clear as day tweets telling us what's coming into our hood. So if we're not positioned to have ownership, because ownership is power, right? If we're not positioned to one, have ownership, and two, and you can't feel guilty about this second part, right? The train is here, the train is coming. Wealth will be built in these cities, in these neighborhoods, whether you get a piece of that or not, right? And so if you aren't positioning yourself to make sure that you ride that wave like your people done been in this neighborhood all their daggone life, you're crazy. You have to capture the wealth that will be and is continuing to be built in these neighborhoods that we've always been in, so that as we are able to build wealth, we're able to also build more and more impact, right? Are y'all following me? Like this is so critically important because when we talk about wealth, particularly wealth in the Black community, and people want to say things like Black wealth will be $0 by 2035. My response is not my circle, not around here, not if you following my Instagram, not if you on my YouTube. I'm honest and doggone sure if you're not in Next Gen. I'm gonna tell you one thing: the success people are having within our Next Gen accelerator is mind blowing. Period, because it blows my mind. I'm so proud of my people. That's why they my babies. That's why they call me mom. But I'm saying, and I'm gonna get to the questions in the chat because I see them, but I'm on a roll, and so y'all gotta rock with me for a second. I'm gonna go back. But we have to capture the wealth that's about to be built in our own communities. And so that position yourself for ownership is so important. One, and being educated on what's happening, how to move, and being able to lift as you climb. Like, we can't let this stuff hold us back, period. We've been out here doing the work. The blueprint is already laid, right? We have the t-shirt and the scars. We know what's coming. So let's make better proactive decisions to make a better result, right? We've been here, we've done that. Now it's time to get ours because we already know what they're doing. We already know what's going on. So now how are you going to position yourself to win? Okay. That's what's on my heart today. So let me go into the chat. Let me go into the chat. Let's see. Yep, there's even in the deeds that you can't sell to Black people. Yeah, that's in the deeds and it's the plan, the urban development plan that they have in some neighborhoods. It says that. There's a link. If you go to bit.ly/be more now, you can sign up for that free class about why Baltimore is important right now as I'm going through this. It's happening here in New York City. Several new development projects are categorized as affordable housing. Some of these properties have a minimum household income range of 100,000. Yeah, and I don't know about y'all. If y'all haven't, Nick said I have mad questions. You can throw them in the chat. We just had an article come out in Baltimore over this past week where Perkins Homes, so those of y'all who know Baltimore know Perkins Homes, right? Perkins Homes, there was an article talking about how it was going to become luxury apartments. And so for us, right, we know and understand that there's, we know some developers involved and stuff like that because we out here, we really do this. So we know what's going on in Baltimore. And so there are, the article was a little slanted, but the conversation is still the same, right? It's how do you take the projects, let's be honest, how do you take the projects and turn it into a affordable luxury housing when you've gotten these tax credits that are really for affordable housing. This is how. You don't have to show the numbers. There's no one really holding you accountable to that level, right? That's how stuff like that happens. Gentrification pushed me out of Brooklyn. My parents got evicted, but I'm here in Ohio. Now that I'm an adult, I see the opportunity. Exactly. There's so many stories like that. And I'm like, look, come to Baltimore. We want Baltimore people to invest in Baltimore. Let's be clear, right? But sometimes it's hard to see, the forest through the trees or the trees through the forest? I don't know. But sometimes when you're in it, it's hard to see it, right? So those who have gone through it in other cities, other neighborhoods, understanding the opportunity here is so, so important. Rent for a 1-bedroom is going to be over $1,500, right? What do you say to certain Blacks who think you are gentrifying your own people? I say I can show my numbers, right? When it comes to what we've been able to do around building home ownership in these neighborhoods. Mama Renee said, "Some." I'm not allowed to cuss on YouTube. Don't shut me down, but you already know. You can't. So there's a difference between gentrification and community development. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the difference between gentrification and community development? Because it's okay for us to own houses in our own neighborhood, right? If you're living in a neighborhood that has all these vacant houses and I'm buying these vacant houses and turning it into a home, right? That's adding value. And so when it comes to gentrification, right? So gentrification by definition, and I know Instagram is probably going to shut me off at some point, but I think I still have some time. So gentrification by definition means kind of uplifting, changing a community to middle income levels, right? So what does that mean? It means a lot of different things to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, what makes gentrification problematic is exactly is displacement, right? It's these negative impacts of gentrification. No one's complaining about the fresh food on the corner, right? No one's complaining about the grocery stores that are coming in to the neighborhood. It's those negative impacts of gentrification. And so when you think about the fact that somebody about to buy this property, right? You might want someone to buy the property who cares about what those negative impacts are, who have lived through those things, who can invest in properties in a way that mitigates those negative impacts, right? And so for me, as someone who absolutely has gone into neighborhoods, bought blocks of vacant properties that has spurred development in those neighborhoods, I do that personally. For anyone who wants to check my resume, don't get me started, L. It's coming out, L. Anyone who wants to check my resume knows that I work with the community association. I work with nonprofits in that area. I have done properties. Khalil and I have done properties nearby in partnership with literal land trusts, so that there are properties set aside as affordable housing that have the exact same finishes as our higher end houses. They know that we spend the time and the energy and the pain to work with NACA, where people can buy these houses and use things like, NACA to have those low interest property, low interest loans, so that they can have this beautiful, darn near new construction home and be able to ride the wave of appreciation over time. You would know that all of our houses, a vast majority of them, have historic tax credits, so that the taxes are staying low on that property, so that people can afford to have them and to keep them. And those affordable tax credits last for 10 years. You would know that we have literally delayed closing and going under contract with people on our properties that we have for sale in order for them to even qualify to get free money, as we call it, from Baltimore. Literally, one right now that we're working on, about $25,000, because they tried to submit an offer and we said, have you done X, Y, and Z yet? No? Here, let's wait to sign the contract. Took a month almost to do. Let's wait to sign the contract and make sure that you're getting access to all the funding that you have. So that's the difference for anyone who wants to question whether I'm gentrifying my neighborhoods or adding value. And I'm not saying you are, I'm not coming for you, but I'm just being clear. That's the difference. So that's what happens when you have Black developers and investors in these Black neighborhoods, is that you have people who have the power and the ability to make those types of decisions, because they have this double bottom line approach to how they invest in properties, right? And so for us, we're able to take understanding all of those pieces and share that with like our next gen. And so when next gen is going through the process of doing their properties, they understand, okay, how were Kiera and Khalil able to do X, Y, Z, still get a coin. Let's be clear. I like going on vacation. I like my things. I like to do what I want when I want to do them, as I should, right? But do it in a way that adds value to these communities, and consulting with community association on, as these property values increase, how do you make sure people are not being displaced, right? That's by one, making sure they know about different things that are available in their neighborhoods today. Like there's a program called the Homestead Tax Credit. The Homestead Tax Credit helps folks who already own properties in these neighborhoods, as properties are being developed and property taxes are increasing for everyone. Through the Homestead Tax Credit, homeowners that have been there forever can keep their taxes low, so that they are not, so that their properties don't rise. So if I'm doing a property, right, I buy a house and that property is $20,000, and the taxes are $100 when I buy it, right? Your properties are assessed based on the value of properties around it. And so if I do a property, I renovate it, now that property that I bought for $20,000 is now worth, let's say, $200,000. So I've raised the property values, which could impact the assessed values of other properties that are already owned by people in the neighborhood. So we do things like work with the community association and organizations to hand out flyers to say, make sure you know about the homestead tax credit, so that you can afford to ride the wave that we're building here. Hold on to your property, keep your taxes low, so your property taxes aren't jumping from $100 to $5,000 just by access to information. A lot of times the problem that we have is that we haven't shared, we don't have the access to information, right? And so like there's I can go on a 1,017,000 rants about the difference between for those, because people have DM'd us asking that, like, you're promoting gentrification in the hood. No, I'm not. And if you think I have, you ain't looked at nothing I've ever said, done, or shared ever. But I'm a calm down, L. I'm a calm down. um, let's see. How can you purchase investment properties? There's so many ways. So many ways. Definitely, if you're interested in Baltimore, definitely make sure that you're do our Baltimore why Baltimore, why now, a free class that we do live. I'm gonna let I got YouTube over here acting up, so I can't. Let me go back in Instagram. I'm not gonna neglect y'all. Y'all the originals. Let's see. How do we rebuild Baltimore, our culture in Baltimore, like Pigtown and Fed Hill? I think we have plenty areas outside of Pigtown and Fed Hill that we can still make sure that we're kind of, holding our own, right? Those areas, Pigtown's not all the way there, right? Pigtown, there's still a lot of opportunity. Fed Hill, right, is kind of over the hump a bit, a bit further than a lot of different areas. But I think what's important is that we don't focus as much on what has already been done and focus on what opportunities we still have in order to invest in these neighborhoods in and around Baltimore. You know your stuff, period. I'm not out here just talking about it on Instagram. Let me tell you something. Charles Street is one. All right, let me go back. How can we invest, purchase in inner city Baltimore? It's hard finding them. All seem to be bait and scam. I'm not sure where you're looking, Pam, but there's a lot of there's still a lot of opportunity to invest. But what folks don't have, and this is why we spend the time with Next Gen, right? What folks don't have is a blueprint. A lot of times people don't know how to move in Baltimore. Like, they don't know and understand how to analyze deals. How do you deal with the area situation where things are very block to block, where you kind of don't know what you don't know. And when people get jammed up in Baltimore, like, oh, I invested in Baltimore, it was terrible. I lost my house to the city. The city is so unfair. No, you just didn't know the rules. Like, you didn't know how to move and get things done here. And so that's what we do in Next Gen, is make sure that people know how to move. But there's definitely opportunities to still invest and purchase. You just have to know how to get it done. And for us, and people are like, well, y'all were a school of hard knocks, right? Khalil and I, we have blood, sweat, tears, and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars all over the place from learning as we went through the school of hard knocks, right? Learning as we went and just kind of pushing through and persevering. But to be completely honest, we don't all have the liberty of time in Baltimore to have everyone learn the hard way, because it is an uphill battle and it costs a lot of money. So when people talk about like investing in Next Gen, believe me, I have spent a whole lot more than that on making the wrong call. Literally, like, I always say thousands and thousands because I don't want to hurt my own feelings. But if we sat down with a pen and paper and talked about all the money we've wasted, I'm sure them six figures would hurt my feelings. Them six figures would hurt my feelings. And so, for us, people can learn the hard way and learn by doing, if that's their choice, which is perfectly fine. We did it and survived, but we don't have the liberty of time for everybody to do that. And that's what Next Gen is about. Like, trampoline into Baltimore and then have a parachute as you're getting it done. We have to get to a point in our country where it's okay to cap your income. Why do people have to make billions off of our people? See, I'm not even here for that, to be honest. And people might be mad that I say that, but I don't think we need to. And Khalil and I have had debates about it because he thinks that too, that we should have like some kind of cap. But I'm like, I don't necessarily think that there needs to be a cap. What I think that there needs to be more of is access to information, right? If we all had access to information in the same way, in the same level, and it wasn't such a secret on how to make your money work for you or how to move and how to get things done, then I think there would be a much bigger, a much more level playing field. But I mean, let's be completely honest. The time that we're in right now will drive the biggest wealth gap of our lifetime. The biggest wealth gap of our lifetime. And so if we're not, I guess I guess maybe for me, I don't spend my time thinking about how many billions of dollars someone has. I'm thinking about how do we change, like how do we shift even that. I don't know, my energy different. I'm like thinking about something else. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not how much money they have doesn't to me impact me because they print money every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So just because they got billions don't mean I can't get mine. It doesn't mean you can't get yours. So there's no finite amount of money. Like I don't know. But that's a whole other thing. Let's see. I don't know where we at. How can I purchase blocks and how can I sign up for next gen? I would first and foremost, I would suggest joining our free class. Like get kind of hear where we are, what's going on here in Baltimore. Next gen does specifically focus on Baltimore because that's what we're passionate about. Is building Baltimore and making sure that we're being proactive on what's happening here. But sign up for that Why Baltimore, Why Now. The link is in our bio on Instagram. It's a bit.ly/be more now. You can also sign up for the class there. Resources and information put you in a better position for a competition, period, right? Like, and it's literally, had you know then what you know now, like, what would you do that's different? And for us, what we wish we knew then that we know now, we put in next gen. Like, that's just how that works. That's how we've been able to do it. Why is it okay for everyone else to make money off of us? Ask them that. Why isn't it okay for us to just make money? Period. Like, let's just learn how to not just make money, but know how to understand how money works. Like, understand how to put money to work for you. Understand how to break these generational curses of, just barely making it. And like, because a lot of that stuff, honestly, I get like the constraints. I know all about all oppression and all these pieces, but like sometimes, a lot of times, most of the time, it's up here that holds you back more so than anything else. And that's the God's honest truth. And a lot of it, maybe you didn't put it there, right? That's something that you learned from family, you learned at the dinner table, you learned watching other people move, watching other people fail, watching who you saw succeed, and that plant seeds in your own head. And I get that, but like, even worried about what's happening across the street and not worried about what's going on in your own house is a thing, right? Who has billions of dollars? They print money every day. I can get mine. You should get yours, right? And be able to leverage that to continue to pull and lift as we climb, right? And so it's not a bad thing to find success financially. It's about what you do with it. You're saying you don't operate from a scarcity mindset? Absolutely not. I sure don't. This is all abundance over here. You hear me? This is pure love and abundance. So no, we do not do scarcity. And we're actually very intentional about trying not to teach scarcity to our daughter. And balancing that with, you don't want to have no scare, like little spoiled brat around, but not always saying no. At the grocery store, when you really want to say, don't touch nothing, you ain't getting nothing, don't ask for nothing. Sometimes it's like, you try to balance that with not feeling, scarcity, or, you're sitting at the dinner table, don't get up until you're finished that plate because, there's starving children in wherever, right? Like scarcity, there's abundance. There's more of that where that came from. It's a thing. I don't know. Quality lifestyle for our larger community is the goal. Absolutely. Just sending my application for next gen. Whoop, whoop. Access to information. We have lived in survivor mode for a long time. Absolutely. That's exactly it. We've lived in survival mode for so long. It's time to break out of that. And it's time to we don't have time for it right now. We're not surviving. We are thriving, right? That's exactly where we are. We don't survive. We thrive. And we lean in to fear. We lean into the unknown. We lean in to what serves us. and we leave what doesn't so that we can continue to push forward. Period. Thrive mode. Let's get it. Hashtag thrive mode. All right, what's going on over here? You have the knowledge with your generation. You have the mindset of wealth building. Exactly. And then we have to be able to teach that to that next generation and keep that going. Like we're out here. We're doing it every single day. Like, let's get it. I'm glad I joined Next Gen. Yes. Welcome to the family. Jared just joined not that long ago. I have a current VA loan for a multi-unit for a 4-unit plus a commercial space. You know, anybody selling something like that. Not today, not off the top of my head right now. No, we have everything to gain right now. We have everything to gain. Anyone, oh yeah, Elle's over here giving her personal information for folks to reach out about Next Gen. Definitely do that. Thrive, not just survive. Exactly. Hey, I missed you. How are you? But yeah, so I wanted to take this time to join everyone together to have, I call them a come to Jesus. We're going to have a come to Jesus moment, y'all. We've been telling you for a real long time what's going on. Make sure you guys are investing in real estate, in yourself, in your community. Make sure you are, moving forward. There's all these opportunities, this whole Black wealth. Everybody's talking about what to do. People are investing in stocks. People are buying houses. People are buying mobile homes. People are buying vending machines. People are all of this stuff. And that's great. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. But there's things going on, particularly in our hoods, and doggone short in Baltimore. And so I'm gonna tell you one thing. They might have, people might have some plans for what's going on, but with our Next Gen takeover, hashtag Next Gen takeover, they're gonna have to, we ride in right there and we're leading the way. And we have some stuff cooking. Let me tell you. And I keep telling, Tiffany said, how you get a VA loan for a multifamily? Yeah, those houses, just like FHA loans, you can get up to 4 units. You can do that with a VA loan too. That's just like FHA. Remember, with FHA loans, you can get up to 4 units. You don't have to buy a single family property. VA loans is exactly the same. So absolutely. But yeah, we ain't playing. Our hashtag Next Gen takeover. Like when you watch and see Baltimore continuing to develop and change and all of these things, just know that Next Gen is all up in the mix. Okay. These people are buying properties and getting it done right alongside us. We have things cooking that is going to blow people's minds around what we're doing with Next Gen. It's going to be so amazing. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure that we are building wealth through real estate, that we're building community and adding value in the communities in which we invest. So make sure that as you guys are looking to invest in Baltimore or elsewhere, make sure your community is strong. Make sure that you are thriving and not surviving, that you're getting out of your own way. And let's buy back the block, y'all, period. That's it. That's what we're doing. So if you're looking to learn more about what's going on in Baltimore, we do have that free 99 free class, Why Baltimore, Why Now? You can click the link in our Instagram bio for that, or it is in the description on YouTube, I believe. But it's time, right? It's time. We don't have time to be messing around. And to be clear, for those who keep asking, like, where's the link to join? Where's the link to join? Well, we have an application process. I'm not playing. This is not a game. There is an application process to join. No, there is not anywhere for you to just put your credit card information in. We have a screening process. We want to make sure people are coming in. They're committed to getting to it and getting it done. Our goal is that people are buying property in 6 months or less. And so we're making sure that people, as they're joining, they're set up for success. So there is no link to straight join because we're not playing, but there is an application process. But make sure that you're joining the Why Baltimore, Why Now, or you can DM me. You can DM me on Instagram if you need to, and we can kind of get you linked into that. But yes, yep, awesome. So thank y'all for joining me to talk about what's going on, redlining by a different name. But just know we're prepared, we're ready, and we finna get it done. So have a good one, y'all. Bye.